열리기를 정말 기도하고 있습니다.
In our headlines on this Thursday, May 22nd, here in South Korea. Public polls show the Liberal Party candidate in the lead, trailed by his two conservative rivals, as we count down 1 week to the start of the two-day period of early voting next Thursday. Meanwhile, North Korea fires multiple cruise missiles early this morning, following an accident the day prior during the launch of a warship that Kim Jong-un strongly condemned. And despite the domestic dispute, the U.S. Defense Department formally accepts a $400 million jet from Qatar as a gift to turn into Air Force One for the American president. We are now counting down 12 days to the June 3rd election, and Liberal Party contender Lee Jae-myung is in the Gyeongsangnam-do Province. I have our political correspondent Shin Ha-young standing by live with details. Ha-young, it's good to have you on. So do start us off then.
Sunny, I'm currently here in Yangsan, in the city of Yangsan in Gyeongsangnam-do Province, which the Democratic Party describes as a city with strong potential to become a global logistics hub, thanks to its location and ability to adapt to changing international conditions. And DP presidential candidate Lee Jae-myung just wrapped up his speech just a few minutes ago. And before his speech, he held a sign encouraging early voting. And also during his speech, he emphasized balanced regional growth. And now this is Lee's second visit to the province during the official campaign period. And it's being seen as an effort to secure more votes in the region compared to the last presidential election when he lost to former President Yoon Suk-yeol with about 37% of the vote. And before coming to Yangsan, he held a rally on Jeju Island where he highlighted the importance of wind power and said Jeju should take the lead in renewable energy. Take a listen.
Before long, Jeju Island will become a truly eco-friendly place, powered entirely by clean energy with no reliance on fossil fuels. It's on track to become a leading region and model city for renewable energy in Korea, and we must make that happen.
He also addressed the April 3rd incident where around 30,000 civilian protesters were killed and what the authorities at the time characterized as an anti-communist crackdown. He said that he visits Jeju every year for the April 3rd memorial and hopes to come back next year as president.
Ha-young, I hear Lee will be in the city of Gimhae tomorrow, and there is much talk about a possible meeting with former President Moon Jae-in. What more can you add?
You're right, Sunny. With Lee's visit to Gyeongsangnam-do Province, attention is now on whether Lee will meet former President Moon Jae-in during the trip. And this comes as Lee is scheduled to visit Bongha Village in the city of Gimhae tomorrow, where a memorial service will be held to mark the 60th anniversary of former President Roh Moo-hyun's death. And the visit is seen as a way to emphasize the party's legacy and rally core supporters. And there's a chance Lee and Moon could meet, as they did last year when Lee joined President Moon and former First Lady Kwon Young-suk for lunch after the ceremony. And he may also run into key figures from the pro-No and pro-Moon factions, which could help show party unity. So that's something to watch closely during his visit to Gyeongsangnam-do Province. That's all for this hour. Back to you, Sunny.
All right, Hayoung, as always, thank you for the coverage of the Liberal camp. Up next, we turn to the Conservative camp, whose contender Kim Moon-soo remains here in the metropolitan region. For this, I have our Kim Do-yeon joining me live. Do-yeon, welcome back. Let's begin with his pledge for political reform, Do-yeon.
That's right, Sunny. First, I'm at Bucheon Metro Station in Gyeonggi-do Province. This is also Kim's old congressional district where he served 3 terms at the National Assembly. Now, he's set to take the stage behind me, as I always say. But before that, as you mentioned, he made headlines early in the day as he called for a last-minute press briefing and pledged a sweeping political reform. Take a listen.
Will we achieve a second wave of democratization or head toward an authoritarian presidential system? I'm deeply concerned.
This message comes amid concerns that if frontrunner Lee Jae-myung wins, the Democratic Party, already holding a majority on the floor, would wield even more control. Kim pledged to cut the number of lawmakers by 10%, down from 300 to 270, and allow the opposition to appoint an independent inspector general to oversee the executive branch. He also vowed to raise the threshold for impeachment motions and shield the judiciary and investigative bodies from political interference. This all comes as Lee faces ongoing legal troubles, and the DP has already submitted around 30 impeachment motions this year, or during the last couple of years, only one of which, against President Yoon, was upheld.
And Do-yeon, what else was on his agenda today?
Absolutely. Kim spent the day meeting with a range of different organizations, including business leaders and medical associations to women's and early childhood education organizations. He also chaired a campaign meeting at the Korea Exchange where he shared his vision on the stock market. Take a listen.
We'll limit economic offenders from trading, strengthen market surveillance and crackdowns, and enhance shareholder protections. In company spin-offs, we'll guarantee priority shares for original shareholders.
At his meeting with Korea's top 5 business organizations, Kim emphasized support for the industries, pointing to his record as Gyeonggi-do governor. He pledged to eliminate barriers facing women and ensure their safety. And when sitting down with medical leaders, Kim issued an apology for pushing healthcare reform, which led to a collective action by medical doctors. It's been prolonged for over a year, with the situation not completely settled even yet. He says he's not taking doctor sides, but he does feel if all doctors acted together, there is an issue with the government, which he was a cabinet member of. That's all for now. Back to you, Sunny.
All right, Do-yeon, thank you for that report, and do keep us posted throughout the day. Right, the answer remains no to a merger with the main Conservative camp. This is according to Reform Party candidate Lee Jun-seok, who posted on Facebook that he would be difficult to reach via phone starting today until Election Day, amid a flood of calls seeking a coalition. Meanwhile, on the campaign trail, he continued to target young voters and centrists in the Greater Seoul area. He sat down with former Captain Choi Won-il of the Cheonan warship, which was torpedoed by North Korea back in the year 2010. Also today, he was at Inha University as part of his campus cafeteria outreach. In this week's focus on presidential pledges, we shed light on those related to reform, to labor reform, that is, and affordable housing, as shared by the top 3 contenders. Our Lee Soo-jin has details.
South Korea's presidential election is just around the corner, and each candidate's economic pledges are drawing increased attention from voters. This week, we look closer at candidates' labor reform and housing pledges. The candidates are aiming to improve labor conditions to win the votes of the many who wish for a better work-life balance. To do so, the 2 frontrunners have proposed a 4.5-day work week. The current standard work week is 5 days, with most full-time workers logging 40 hours from Monday to Friday, with a legal maximum of 52 hours per week. The 5-day workweek was introduced with a 2003 revision to the Labor Standards Act and was fully implemented nationwide by 2011. And now attention is on whether a 4.5 workweek will become a reality this year. So what does each candidate's 4.5 workweek look like? Democratic Party candidate Lee Jae-myung has proposed reducing the standard work week from 40 to 36 hours, cutting Friday afternoons without reducing wages. His proposal also includes incentives for companies to adopt the new schedule and has a long-term goal of eventually transitioning to a 4-day work week.
South Korea's total working hours are too long, about 200 hours more than the OECD average. Longer hours no longer mean higher productivity. Efficiency and creativity are now key.
People Power Party candidate Kim Moon-soo has proposed a 4.5 work week that maintains the current 40-hour work week by distributing working hours across the week. Under this plan, employees work an extra hour from Monday to Thursday and finish earlier on a Friday, creating a shorter workday without cutting total working hours. He has also said that he supports granting exemptions to the 52-hour work week limit for the semiconductor sector.
I will replace the rigid working hours system with a more flexible one, cut corporate and inheritance taxes significantly, and drastically reform regulations to help businesses thrive.
Reform Party candidate Lee Jun-seok has strongly criticized the 4.5-day workweek proposal that reduces working hours without cutting wages, calling it unrealistic. He has instead pledged labor reforms include giving local governments the authority to adjust the minimum wage to revitalize regional economies. And housing is a key issue that all three candidates, as the country's residence crisis has fueled voter concern and also contributed to the country's low birth rate. While they all aim to increase supply, their approaches differ, and here's how. The key theme of Lee Jae-myung's housing proposal is Newtown, South Korea's first Newtown project from the late 1980s, which includes Bundang and Ilsan, now faces aging infrastructure that he plans to rebuild. He also pledges to cut red tape for Seoul's downtown development and to develop a fourth-generation Newtown with more quality public housing. The key theme of Kim's proposal is youth. Kim's 333 Youth Housing Supply Plan offers support for up to 9 years, 3 years after marriage and 3 years each after the first and second child. His proposal also includes supplying 200,000 homes to young adults, newlyweds and families, and more housing for single-person households. The key theme of Lee Jun-seok's proposal is life stages. He plans to increase the supply of 59-meter square homes by promoting the development and building of small unit housing. He pledged to promote high-density urban development and also to citing strong housing demand and proposed housing tax cuts tailored to newlyweds seeking smaller homes, growing families needing more space, and seniors looking to downsize. Though each candidate's vision differs, the emphasis on their economic pledges highlights a critical role the economy plays in this election.
North Korea fired a series of cruise missiles earlier this morning that some pundits believe was an attempt to save face following an accident during a military event back on Wednesday. Our correspondent Kim Jung-sil explains.
South Korea's military confirmed the launch of several unidentified cruise missiles from North Korea on Thursday. The Joint Chiefs of Staff said the missiles were detected at around 9 a.m. from the Seondeok area in Gyeongsangnam-do Province on North Korea's east coast. The missile launches came a day after North Korea failed to launch a new 5,000-ton destroyer at the Cheongjin shipyard. State media reported that Kim Jong-un was present during the incident, calling it unforgivable and a blow to the regime's dignity. According to the Rodong-sinmun, the rear sled carrying the destroyer detached prematurely, causing the ship to tilt and preventing the front from releasing, disrupting the launch balance. While North Korea did not specify the extent of the damage, the South Korean military said this.
Given the size and scale, it is expected to be similar to the Traeon vessel, and the ship is currently lying on its side in the sea.
Some analysts believe the missile test could be a response to the negative fallout from the failed naval launch. However, others argue that the launches were likely part of North Korea's routine military exercises, as South Korea had already been tracking signs of missile activity.
While the missile launch may help counter the negative image from the ship failure, it could be part of a broader strategy focused on military training, international negotiations, and military cooperation with Russia.
Analysts believe North Korea's ongoing military demonstrations, including the missile tests and destroyer construction, may be part of the regime's broader strategy to showcase its military power. Kim Jong-sil, Arirang News.
The U.S. Defense Department has accepted a $400 million jet from Qatar as a gift to turn into Air Force One for the American leader. Our Shin Se-byuk covers this event and the debate surrounding it.
The U.S. has accepted a luxury Boeing 747 jet gift from Qatar for use as Air Force One. President Donald Trump received a $400 million luxury jet during a recent visit to Qatar and announced plans to use it for future presidential travel. This, however, has sparked controversy in Washington, with critics raising concerns over potential impropriety and foreign influence. Pentagon spokesperson Sean Parnell said in a statement Wednesday that the plane was accepted in accordance with all federal rules and regulations. He added that the Defense Department is working to ensure the aircraft meets the necessary security standards and mission requirements for presidential transport. The U.S. Air Force is expected to begin modifications to the jet so it can be used as an official presidential aircraft. While there are questions surrounding the luxury jet and the ethics of accepting such an expensive gift from a foreign government, Trump has maintained there's nothing improper.
It's not a gift to me, it's a gift to the Department of Defense.
Qatar has also downplayed the backlash, calling it a routine government-to-government transaction.
I see that this story is taking a different direction and is being more politicized, while it's a normal government-to-government deal.
However, CNN reported earlier this week, citing an anonymous source, that it was the Trump administration, not Qatar, that first initiated the deal. Facing an urgent need for a new Air Force One, the administration reportedly approached Qatar to inquire about acquiring a Boeing 747, and Qatar agreed. During his first term, President Trump had placed an order for a new presidential jet from Boeing, but with the delivery still delayed, he has repeatedly voiced frustration over the wait. Meanwhile, the security upgrades are expected to cost over $1 billion, with Boeing aiming to complete delivery of the newly configured presidential jet by 2027. Shin Se-byuk, Arirang News.
Bitcoin hit a new high on Wednesday to reach over $110,000. Pundits believe prospects of greater regulatory clarity for digital asset firms under the Trump administration are fueling the rally for Bitcoin. What's more, a growing number of investors are opting for Bitcoin as a safe haven as compared to traditional assets such as the US dollar, in light of the US's tariff policy and its broader repercussions on global trade. In the Middle East, a large convoy of trucks containing basic humanitarian aid has yet to reach Palestinians as authorities seek safe passage amid fears of looting. Our Eastern Jet covers this reality as well as Israel's military offensive.
Work is in full swing to transport relief supplies to Gaza, but aid has still not been distributed to those in need. Around 100 relief trucks have passed through the Palestinian side of the Kerem Shalom checkpoint, with the first of the trucks to arrive there for a third day. The delay comes amid concerns of looting as authorities look to secure a safe route for the trucks.
So far, and this is as a few minutes ago, but the situation obviously is fluid, none of the supplies have been able to leave the Kerem Shalom loading area. This is because by yesterday evening, Israeli authorities had only allowed our teams to go through one area where that was highly congested, that we felt was insecure, and where we felt looting was highly likely to take place given the prolonged deprivation of in Gaza since the blockade by the Israeli authorities for over 11 weeks.
UN officials are consulting with Israeli authorities to determine if another route can be used to deliver the aid. According to UN spokesperson Stefan Dujarric, humanitarian items include baby food, flour, medicine, and nutrition supplies. However, he said that Israel has not allowed hygiene products or fuel into Gaza. Meanwhile, the Israeli military has continued its ground operations in Gaza. According to Al Jazeera, around 80 people were killed in airstrikes in various locations in Gaza on Wednesday. In a press conference on the same day, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that Israeli military had apparently killed Hamas leader Mohammed Sinwar. He is the younger brother of Hamas former top leader Yahya Sinwar, who was killed in October last year. Netanyahu said that there are currently 20 Israeli hostages alive in Gaza and promised to bring them all back. 이승재, Arirang News.
In other news, Korea's small and mid-sized defense companies are seeking to share their strategic solutions to bolstering security at an ongoing regional showcase in Malaysia. Our defense correspondent Kim Bo-kyung reports.
A Boeing 737's three-dimensional landing gear appears just by wearing a mixed reality headset. This is one of many innovative products Korea's small and medium-sized companies have brought to the Langkawi International Maritime and Aerospace Exhibition, Southeast Asia's largest exhibition of this type. Situated within the booth of the Integrated Korean Pavilion, Augmented Knowledge offers a digital twin of aircraft by integrating AI-based paper manuals with 3D models. Currently being used by several institutions, the cloud service is already helping students learn aircraft maintenance more efficiently. With the innovation that makes paper manuals a legacy of the past, the company aims to open up new opportunities at LIMA 2025.
Malaysia offers relatively low labour costs and has a well-developed MRO industry. We're in contact with both companies like GE Aerospace and local schools, aiming to establish a foothold in Southeast Asia.
Optical communications company Fostec, which is showcasing expanded beam connectors that are reliable for field use, is already producing cables used for Korean missile defense systems like Cheonggung. It now aims to explore more chances in the global market.
Our products are about 1/5 the cost compared to Amphenol and Glenair, with delivery times reduced by about half, while maintaining equal or superior quality standards.
Also eyeing the Southeast Asian market is an anti-drone manufacturer, producing a system that integrates multiple functions into one. It can detect, operate jamming methods, disrupt the signals and spoofing, and send false GPS signals to mislead the drone to move to a different direction.
I've heard that many key officials from important agencies such as the Malaysian Air Force and police will be attending, so we hope there will be an opportunity to participate in bids with the Malaysian government.
With strong government support behind them, Korean defense SMEs are taking a big leap into the global market. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News, Langkawi.
On the entertainment front, K-pop artists have been acknowledged at an inaugural music award ceremony in neighboring Japan. Blackpink member Rosé's duet with Bruno Mars, Apatu, won the Best International Pop Song in Japan at the Music Awards Japan, while Ditto by NewJeans won the Best K-pop Song in Japan. The Music Awards Japan is a new event organized through collaboration among major Japanese music organizations and government agencies.
This is The World Now, bringing you the latest stories from around the globe. In an Oval Office meeting on Wednesday, U.S. President Donald Trump confronted South African President Cyril Ramaphosa with allegations of a white genocide targeting white South African farmers. The encounter was initially intended to discuss trade and diplomatic relations, but escalated into heated exchanges as President Trump presented a video featuring clips of South African politicians inciting violence against white farmers. Trump argued that these clips were evidence that there was a systematic campaign against the white minority in South Africa. Ramaphosa stayed calm but disputed Trump's allegations, saying that black people were more likely to be victims of violence in the country than white people. He also said that his government does not endorse any form of racial violence or related policies. A former Ukrainian politician who had been a senior aide to a pro-Russian president was shot dead outside a school in Madrid, Spain. Andriy Portnov had been deputy head of the presidential administration under former President Viktor Yanukovych. On Wednesday at approximately 9:15 a.m. local time, Portnov was ambushed by several attackers as he returned to his car after leaving his children at the American School of Madrid. Witnesses report he was shot multiple times, including at least once in the head. The attackers fled the scene, heading toward a nearby wooded area. Portnov had been sanctioned by the U.S. Treasury in 2021 for undermining judicial reforms. After fleeing Ukraine in 2014, he lived in Russia and Austria before settling in Spain. Investigations into his killing are ongoing, but no arrests have been reported yet. Finally, the Enhanced Games, a new controversial sporting event allowing the use of performance-enhancing drugs under medical supervision, has announced that its inaugural competition will kick off next year from May 21st to 24th in Las Vegas. Founded by an Australian entrepreneur, the Games aim to challenge traditional anti-doping norms under the principle that banning such substances hinders athletes' performance rather than protecting them. The event will feature competitions in swimming, track and field, and weightlifting, and athletes will be categorized based on chromosomes, XX or XY, rather than gender. There will be up to $500,000 in prize money per event and a $1 million bonus for breaking world records in the 100-meter sprint or 50-meter freestyle. Choi Ji-hee, Arirang News.
The early heat is slowly subsiding. Yesterday was the hottest this year, with a daytime temperature exceeding 30 degrees Celsius in Seoul. It was still hot today, with highs of 27 degrees in Seoul, but not as hot as yesterday. Tomorrow and Saturday will stay slightly below the average temperatures. There will be some rain in southern regions today. It will rain around 5 millimeters in Gyeongsangnam-do Province, and there will be 5 to 10 millimeters mainly in southern areas. Most of this rain will stop by tonight. Another round of light rain is forecast on the west coast of Gyeongsangnam-do Province at dawn tomorrow and on Jeju Island from late afternoon. Tomorrow morning, Seoul, Gwangju, and Jeju will start off at 16 degrees, Chuncheon and Gyeongju at 12 degrees. Daily highs will move up to 23 degrees in Seoul, 24 degrees in Daejeon and Gwangju. Temperatures will rise back again from Sunday. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
That ends our newscast for now. As always, thank you for watching.
제21대 대통령 재외선거.
세계 어느 곳에 있어도
내가 국가대표라는 마음으로
누구보다 땀 흘리죠.
지금이 국가대표임을
보여줄 기회. 대한민국 국민의 권리.
대한민국 국민의 의무.
반드시 투표합니다. 국가를 위한 대통령 투표. 제21대 대통령 재외선거. 중앙선거관리위원회.
How to survive in Korea. One room. So, you're surviving in Korea if you've signed a contract for a one room. Obviously, you're a pro. But the real deal begins now. Step 1. Housewarming. No need to buy toilet paper, diffusers or hand soap. You'll get them soon enough as housewarming gifts. And some are bound to pile up. There's nothing better to serve your guests than milpaeyu nabe. If you have Korean friends coming over, don't forget the extra garlic. Step 2. Garbage disposal. With great power comes great responsibility. You've had a good time, so let's get to work. It might be tempting to sweep everything into a trash can, but you have to separate your garbage. Not bothered? Beware that negligence is punished with a fine or public humiliation. Step 3. Drying rack. You're excited to live alone in Korea, but the fate of these items, hanger, storage, or a hanger. Go get fresh coffee outside. Jogging doesn't cost anything, and nothing beats instant rice. But keep one item around so that you don't get too lonely. Step 4. Pros of living alone. No mum. Cons of living alone. No mum. A new towel doesn't magically appear. You have to do the laundry regularly. If anyone gives a towel as a souvenir, take it. Get rid of mold immediately. Don't be lazy with the vacuum cleaner. Housework is an endless affair. Overwhelmed? Give your mum a call and thank her for everything she's done. Did you survive in your one room? Wait, you have an unwanted visitor. Call someone you fancy. Could be the right person for the job.
North Korea continues to flex its military muscle as South Korea believes there may have been technology transfer from Russia to the regime to advance the latter's missile technology. With more on Press Perspective today. Hello and welcome. You're watching Press Perspective for this Thursday, May 22nd here in Seoul. I'm Min Sun-hee. Today we touch upon the latest acts of defiance by North Korea and the prospects of easing security concerns here on the Korean Peninsula. For more on this, I have Thomas Maresca with American news agency UPI here in the studio. Thomas, as always, welcome back.
Thanks. Great to be here. I also have former Radio Free Asia reporter Chun Soram with us. Soram, it's great to have you here.
Glad to be here.
Right, Thomas, we will start with you. So let's begin with news about North Korea's first live fire test of an air-to-air missile, which took place last week and has been fueling fresh concern here in South Korea. Do tell us more.
Yes, so North Korea media reported, kind of a range of air-based weapons tests, and the main thing that really stood out was the launch of a live fire test of an air-to-air missile with active radar guidance, which is something that is beyond what we've seen from North Korea. I think the technology, even South Korea doesn't have an equivalent missile. Launched from its MiG-29 fighter jet, which is, an older Soviet plane. So, their Air Force is still not something that is kind of up to date. I mean, these are decades old things, but this is, a weapons technology that is modern and certainly of some concern. And as you mentioned in the intro, there's speculation that this was developed with the help of technology assistance from Russia. The Joint Chiefs of Staff mentioned that they thought it was Russia helped the North, and this is in exchange for the troop deployments and weapons that North Korea has been sending to Russia for its war against Ukraine. I mean, the JCS mentioned they thought it would take a while for this to actually be deployed or really sort of combat operational, yet it is a source of concern, and I think particularly underscoring seeing some possible fruits of this military relationship with Russia, and how North Korea is still really keen on, developing its conventional forces. It's not just, its nuclear program. And so, we're seeing it across a variety of other, military areas.
Right. And also earlier on this Thursday morning, Thomas, North Korea, it fired several cruise missiles, and this followed an accident during a public military event that took place yesterday on Wednesday, during which Kim Jong-un was also present. Could you walk us through these events?
Yes, so the cruise missile launch, we don't know too much about it. I mean, the JCS also just sort of sent out a short message to reporters saying that South Korean military detected a launch of several cruise missiles into the East Sea this morning from the Sondok area of South Hanyang Province. That's pretty much all we know about it. I mean, this is the first test since, they fired some short-range ballistic missiles earlier this month on May 8th. So, not a lot of information yet about that, but the warship accident that you mentioned, this was covered in North Korean state media. It happened yesterday, but they reported it today, where the launch of a new destroyer, a 5,000-ton warship, had an accident at this launch event where apparently just part of it, like the stern, slid into the water first, and something, part of the hull got crushed, and it sounded like it sort of fell over to the side. And the South Korean military said that they had kind of been monitoring the launch, and said that the ship seems like it is still half submerged, floating in the water, but this is bad timing. Kim Jong-un was at this event, and he spoke afterwards, or he was quoted in the KCNA report, doesn't seem happy, called it a criminal act, said that a number of officials from the various agencies that were involved with the development of this ship would be facing consequences, and pretty much ordered the whole thing to get fixed by the time of their next, there's a plenary session of the Central Committee next month, and he wants it to all be fixed by then. And again, we don't know that much about this ship, but they launched another similar ship just a few weeks ago, and it seems around the same size. And actually, the South Korean military said they think it might be the same type, which also seems like it has some connections with Russian military assistance. Some of the missile and radar systems seem to look a lot like what Russia has. So this is another area where we're seeing possibly this, military technology transfer.
Right, and against this backdrop, Soram, Newsweek has renewed concerns about North Korea's missile threat against mainland America. Now, could you tell us a bit more about the concern that has been shared by pundits?
Yeah, last week, North Korea carried out its first test of air-to-air missile, as Thomas mentioned about it. It's another clear sign that the regime is steadily expanding its military capabilities. Kim Jong-un was there to oversee the test, signaling its strategic importance. Now, some experts are raising concerns not just about this air-to-air test, but about the broader picture. What's causing real concern is North Korea's ICBM program, which could potentially travel over 9,000 miles, which is about more than 15,000 kilometers. That's enough to reach the U.S. mainland within range. So what's more important is that experts believe North Korea is getting help from Russia. Some defense experts suggest that Pyongyang may be receiving Russian military technology, possibly in exchange for military support in Ukraine. Missile experts from South Korea pointed out that North Korea may have received secret technology from Russia. Secret technologies can be like an eye for the missile, so giving the missile the ability to detect and track enemy aircraft in real time. So these upgraded missile systems, including solid fuel boosters and potential multiple warheads capabilities, could pose a real challenge to existing U.S. missile defenses. And this isn't just about the regional tension on the Korean Peninsula. This is about a growing North Korea-Russia military partnership that could reshape the strategic balance far beyond Asia. Experts say this could be the beginning of broader push to modernize its air power and missile systems with help from Russia.
Right, and perhaps with these concerns in mind, U.S. President Donald Trump recently shared a rather ambitious and costly plan to protect America from missile assaults. What exactly is this plan? And Thomas, what has been the response to it?
So, right, this was announced on Tuesday. Trump announced the details of what he's calling the Golden Dome missile defense system, similar to Israel's Iron Dome system, but it's golden. Trump loves everything gold, and it is, quite ambitious. It's they say, Trump and his team says that will cost around $175 billion, and he wants to see it deployed by the end of his presidential term, 2029. And it's basically kind of a constellation of ground, sea, and space-based, detectors and anti-missile defense systems. And kind of the headline there is that this would be something in space. This would be really the first time that the U.S. would be deploying weapons into space as part of this plan. And so. There are obviously supporters of it. The critics, are arguing a number of things. I mean, it's still kind of in its early stages, but just the price tag. I mean, the Congressional Budget Office has run the numbers, and they said it could cost up to, I think it's over $800 billion, and could take 2 decades to be fully implemented. There's questions just even if it's feasible, or it really could, provide the type of defense, and whether we do need it or not. China has already sort of responded to it negatively, saying that you're risking kind of an arms race in space, and you're weaponizing space. So that's some concerns, and there's even concerns among some lawmakers in the U.S., Senator Elizabeth Warren and some others are calling for an investigation just into how this might be, who's going to be doing the building of it, and this private contractors. Elon Musk's SpaceX has been tied to it, and he's obviously got connections with the Trump administration. So there are also concerns about that. So I think, there are certainly a ton of questions, and, but of course Trump is saying, everything is great, it's going to work perfectly, but he that's his basic stance towards almost everything. So I think we'll just have to see when the numbers start coming in, when the money starts needing to be spent. But that's, for now, that's the plan, the Golden Dome.
Right, and staying with Mr. Trump's security strategy, he has threatened airstrikes against Iranian nuclear facilities if a deal between Iran and the U.S. is not reached. Where do U.S. talks with Iran on the latter's nuclear ambitions stand?
So the U.S.-Iran nuclear talks are now at a critical point. President Trump has issued a tough warning. If Iran doesn't agree to a new nuclear deal, the U.S. could launch airstrikes on Iran's nuclear sites. It is a clear sign that tensions are rising and the time may be running out. Iran says they are willing to keep talking, but at the same time they are dismissing Trump's threat. Officials continue to insist the country's nuclear efforts are peaceful, and they are standing firm, saying they will not back down under pressure. Despite multiple rounds of indirect talks, big hurdles remain. The U.S. wants Iran to fully stop enriching uranium, something Iran calls an unreasonable demand. Iran's supreme leader has rejected that idea, calling it nonsense, and insisting Iran has the legal right to enrich uranium under international agreements. There is growing concern among observers that Iran's uranium enrichment is now very close to weapons-grade levels. While Iran maintains the program is for peaceful energy use, many in Washington remain deeply concerned about how quickly that could change. At the same time, Iran's economy is under serious situation. U.S. sanctions have severely impacted its economy, and the currency is falling, and the domestic unrest is growing. Iran wants those sanctions lifted, but it's not willing to accept the terms Washington is asking for. In summary, the path to a diplomatic resolution is full of challenges. Both sides are standing firm, and the chance for a peaceful deal is getting smaller. The international community is watching closely, hoping for a positive outcome to come.
Right. And Thomas, while Mr. Trump is opting for a tough stance against Iran's nuclear ambitions, he does not appear to be as aggressive with regard to North Korea. How do you explain this discrepancy, if you will?
Well, you know, he really hasn't said much about North Korea to this point. It seems it just hasn't come up on the sort of agenda yet of, you know, in this you know, so far in his second term. I mean, the focus has obviously been on Russia, Ukraine, Gaza. Now he's doing this Middle Eastern swing. So, you know, there just really hasn't been too much attention paid towards this region in general. I mean, China, the trade war stuff, but really on the Korean Peninsula. So, you know, we don't have a great sense of what he's thinking in general, but what he has said a few times, you know, he has touted his personal connection with Kim Jong-un, which, you know, also dates back to his first go-around and the you know, summits he had with Kim. And he often spoke about their kind of personal relationship. And, you know, a few times ahead of the election and after the election, you know, he has said, you know, I think he likes me, we get along, I think he wants to meet. You know, he did say recently, I think a couple months ago, that, you know, there has been some communication, so I think we'll do something. So, you know, it's out there. And I guess the knowing Trump's sort of MO, there does seem to be this sense that, you know, he will try, when the attention does turn to North Korea, he will try again to have some kind of, he likes these top-down, leader-to-leader types of, you know, interactions anyway. And we saw that just in this Middle Eastern trip as well, sort of the way he dealt with sort of the Syrian leader, you know, and just kind of, you know, and also maybe there's some indications from this Middle Eastern trip, you know, you can see these two sides of how maybe Trump approaches these types of negotiations, where on the one hand, he is open to talking about discussions and negotiations, but will also, on the other hand, you know, threaten, you know, very like strong reactions. And so maybe that's, you know, somewhere North Korea will fall in the middle, where, you know, you get the sense he does want to have some kind of engagement with the North and with Kim Jong-un personally. You know, but at the same time, Washington has also so far not really indicated any change in the approach and has called for denuclearization and hasn't stepped back on really the joint drills with South Korea. So there isn't really a signal that, you know, things are changing right now with North Korea. With Trump, you know, it's a different situation than the first time around with Kim, where North Korea is in a different position than it was the first time around. You know, as Sonam mentioned, you know, Iran is kind of still on its way to enriching uranium, but, you know, we see North Korea already has a cache of nuclear weapons and a nuclear arsenal. I mean, and Trump has already called North Korea a nuclear power or nuclear state, and which has caused some alarm here in South Korea. So I think it's, there was a report in Axios last month that Trump's national security team is kind of trying to prepare with this idea that Trump may just at some point say, okay, now I want to engage with North Korea, and they want to have some plans in place, but how that shakes out is really anyone's guess still.
Right. Well, quite a number of scholars are saying that Mr. Trump right now is quite preoccupied with the situation in Ukraine amid Russian aggression. And that being said, Soram, the New York Times says President Trump has a new position on Russia's war in Ukraine. What is this new position? What are its broader implications, do you think?
So after a 2-hour phone call with President Putin, President Trump announced that Russia and Ukraine will immediately begin negotiation towards a ceasefire. And he said, more importantly, the end to the war. But here's the key differences. Trump made it clear that the United States will not be a direct mediator in this talk. He believes only Russia and Ukraine know the real details needed to strike a deal. This hands-off approach is a sharp departure from the current U.S. policy, which has been centered around supporting Ukraine with military aid and pressuring Russia through sanctions. President Zelensky had been calling for even tougher sanctions on Russia, and U.S.-led diplomatic pressure. So Trump's decision to step back and not add the new sanctions has left Ukraine feeling isolated. And there's more. Trump also said that Russia wants to restart large-scale trade with the U.S. And once the war is over, and Trump was on board on that idea. He called it a tremendous opportunity to create jobs and boost the economy in both Russia and Ukraine during post-war rebuilding. But critics worry this could ease pressure on Putin, and European leaders are particularly uneasy about this situation. Some fear that without firm U.S. involvement, Russia could drag out the talks to buy time. In response, some European countries are considering additional sanctions to keep pressure on Russia. Experts warn that this change in the U.S. strategy could encourage Moscow and make it harder for Ukraine to negotiate from a position of strength, and possibly dragging out the war, not ending it.
Right. And Thomas, keeping in mind the situation, keeping in mind the Trump administration strategy with regard to Russia's aggression against Ukraine, do you suppose South Korea should be worried about a sudden shift in North Korea policy by the Trump administration?
Sure. I think all allies of the United States have already seen how changeable Trump's approaches can be almost day to day, and who he spoke to last. And, this is also something that we saw, the first time around. So, of course, you have to be concerned, and you have to try and plan for the various, possible contingencies. I think, for South Korea, it's the basic, mostly, obviously you want to keep as diplomatic channels open and make your own position known to Washington as much as possible. I think also with the upcoming presidential election, that's going to steer perhaps how South Korea wants to approach North Korea. Will you see the more, if, say, Lee Jae-myung wins, will you see a return towards more of a sense of wanting to engage with North Korea? Or if Kim Moon-soo wins, will you see, a continuation of a more hardline stance? So, that will sort of determine some of it. But at the same time, obviously, South Korea needs to keep strengthening its own deterrence measures. You'd think it would want to keep ties with other allies in the region going strong. I think one of the big questions has been around South Korea nuclearizing, having its own nuclear weapons as a response. So those are, these are questions that are going to have to sort of come up. And again, as North Korea's role, North Korea's capacity has changed in recent years, where now there are also some calls, among some experts to just think about dealing with North Korea from more of an arms control approach rather than a strictly sticking to a pure denuclearization strategy? And is that something that you could coordinate with Washington, or is that something that anyone would want here? And I guess maybe the last thing is this idea that the key to Trump's heart is something transactional. What can South Korea find some way to sweeten the deal or offer something to Trump to kind of keep him in the more aligned with Seoul's own goals? So I think there's just going to be all sorts of questions and going forward about this.
Right, and against these questions, as Thomas said, Soram, there was another report about analysts saying that Kim Jong-un's daughter, Kim Ju-ae, is emerging as a likely successor. Could you tell us a bit more about that?
So there is growing talk about whether Kim Jong-un's daughter, Kim Ju-ae, is being positioned as his potential successor. And this time it's tied to a diplomatic appearance. Since her first public appearance in 2022, Kim Ju-ae has been regularly at a major military event or in domestic events. But her presence often sparked a debate. Is she the chosen successor or simply a symbolic figure? For years, there has been lots of speculation, but there has been no official confirmation from Pyongyang. But now the conversation is heating up again. That's because Kim Ju-ae just appeared at what's believed to be her first official diplomatic event, joining her father at the Russian embassy in Pyongyang to mark the 80th anniversary of Russian Victory Day. It is fueling fresh debate over her status in North Korea leadership line. Experts say this public appearance on the diplomatic stage may signal that Kim Jong-un is preparing for her leadership, possibly grooming her as his eventual successor. It is also worth noting that North Korea's state media refer to her with unusually respectful language, calling her respected daughter. However, not everyone agrees that she is being groomed for succession, at least not yet. Some say she may be just too young, or that her growing presence is more about reinforcing Kim Jong-un's own image as a father of the nation, rather than signaling a real transfer of the power. So is Kim Ju-ae really next in line? Right now, we just simply don't know about it. But one thing is clear, Kim Ju-ae's appearance is rising. And at the very least, North Korea wants the world to start getting used to seeing her.
Right, which is why she's quite a lot in the media as well. She has been, though. All right, I'm afraid that's all the time we have. As always, Soram, thank you very much for your insights today. And Thomas, thank you very much for your thoughts.
Thank you.
Right, well, on that note, we end this edition of Press Perspective. As always, thank you for watching.
How to survive in Korea. Workplace. Step 1. Lunchtime. The most important morning routine is to check today's menu. Food is essential for survival. Memorize today's menu. The highlight of office life. Lunchtime. Rice in the bottom left, soup in the bottom right. The top is for the sides. The sauce and the spoon go here. This is the basic layout, but it's a bit odd to switch rice and soup. When you're done, pour the leftovers into the soup bowl. It doesn't look that appetizing, so wait until others are done eating. Step 2. Neng, nep, nenep. These are the most used expressions at work. Choose the most appropriate form. Neng, nep, nenep. Remember that the formal ne can sound a bit stiff. Did you just say yes? Absolutely not acceptable. You want to find the right word for the right occasion. Step 3. Desteria. Desteria is the oasis in the desert. Show them your character. If you're not the diligent type, get a stooky plant. Work is tough. Laugh and the whole world laughs with you. Weep and you weep alone. Stay put, like the stooky that survives in the desert. Hang in there until the end. Of course, you can always quit. You matter more than anything else. Step 4. Survival kit. Every worker needs a survival kit. Survival kit level 1. This position gets the most exposure. Grab one when you need a sugar boost. Always keep a few treats you can offer your co-workers. Survival kit level 2. These are for hunger pangs before and after a meal. You'll need them when you take a coffee break with your office buddies. Survival kit level 3. Trash talking your boss with your soulmate. Did you survive in the workplace? Office romance? Be careful. Even the photocopier knows all the gossip.
그대가 향한 시선이 나에게 향해졌으면 그대의 예쁜 미소가 나에게만 보였으면 좋겠어. 맘 돌다가 닿은 곳에는 다 버두고 못 본 채 했던 지난 날의 눈물들을 말없이 울었던 저녁을 사랑하겠어. 눈물에 짓눌려 부서지지 않기 위해서 나 부르는 희미한 빛을 따라 어둠을 품에 안고서 나의 저녁을 사랑하겠어.
보는 걸로 한김생 내려온다. 그의 머리를 흔들며 양기쭉 찢어지고 몸은 애로서 어려서 고리란 자다.
서방
왔으니 서성은 배를 타고 저먼 마를 놓아 남평산 높은 목을 타는 듯이 올라가 사면을 살펴보니 공명은 간디고 없고 칩길 장사는 당폭집하야 시리릉 당구 주소 강상무 둥둥 뜬 배수 천석을 실어 쓴들 대박 한 통을 당할 순가 곧 보는 사람인지 누군 줄 모른지라 먼 눈을 희번쩍 번쩍거리며 아버지라니